I don't really actually call him that. Progressive liberal guest bookers call him that. IQ Al Rizzoli is with us. The fantastic man about town, as I've started calling him, IQ Al Rizzoli. And dollars to donuts, and let's hope IQ brought the donuts. We will get it going here in just a few seconds. We have a guest that we are going to get to. I am going to try to hopefully get this guy on the phone. I don't know. We'll see if I can actually I can actually get him to pick up the phone. We are also going to discuss this. We're going to have our guest for our first half of the show, and then the second half of the show, we will go to what only can be described as our panel segment. But I have some interesting things I want to ask the boys today. Biden supposedly went to a picket line today. I don't quite believe that, but maybe he did. I don't know. That sounds a little Democratic Party and progressive. And as we all know, Joe Biden is neither of those things. So, I don't know if our guest is going to pick up or not. We'll see what happens here. I don't know.
So there was a story this morning.
And I think our guest has
Please leave your message for...
No, they haven't. Apparently, I got to call their cell phone. But go ahead, Dan. Why we...
There was a story this morning about what the Secret Service is doing to, quote, prop Joe up so that he doesn't fall anymore.
Okay.
I don't know what they're going to do, how they're going to do it, but whether they're going to put braces on him or whatever.
Exoskeleton. They'll put an exoskeleton.
An exoskeleton on him.
Okay.
Maybe.
Please leave your message
for... he just called me and I was calling him back. And then he...
Question to you.
We'll see what happens.
Menendez has been indicted. But
yes.
I thought under the American Constitution, you have to put him on trial.
Hello. How are you, sir? It is James Lowe, Jiggy Jag, calling you for your radio interview. How are you?
Yeah. I've been sorry, but I've been tremendously busy. There's been so much stuff coming down on me, like if I'm in some kind of thunderstorm or something, with all the different stuff that's been happening as far as creative stuff. Yeah.
Well, do you have time right now to do a radio interview with me and Dan and IQ? Or?
Oh yeah, right now I can't. I'm in a very noisy place.
Okay. Well, Dennis, I will call you at a different time, and we'll try to make it work, man. I don't know. It is so strange sometimes with.
Are you going to tell us who the guest was?
Hold on just a sec. I've got another guest. I've got another person called. I don't even know what this is. Who is this? It says scam likely, so I would almost believe. Yep. Almost believe that was a. Well, there was a gentleman that wanted to come on and talk about his book. He's been hitting up me all sorts of, oh my God, I got to come on and talk about the book. I want to talk with Dan and IQ about my book. So I guess I'll reschedule when he's not in a noisy environment. So let's do this. Let's go into this Joe Biden thing.
Yeah.
First of all, I've seen the photos on the Drudge Report of Joe Biden at the picket line. Biden walks picket line is the photo that I see up on the Drudge Report. I am astoundingly shocked by this because this is what I would refer to as a progressive Democratic move. And as everyone knows, Joe Biden is not progressive, nor realistically a Democrat. So, Dan, why did he go do this? Did the UAW not give Biden enough campaign funds? So he's like, well, I'm going to go march with the picket guys.
This marching with the picket was
Yeah.
not something that was on his schedule months in advance.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm
Yeah.
going to tell you why I think they put this together so quickly.
Okay.
Donald Trump is not going to participate in the debate tomorrow night.
Yes.
What's he going to do? He's announced that he's going to hold.
Okay.
He's holding a rally in Detroit, Michigan, with the labor unions to show support for what it is they want to do.
Okay.
And so Biden's team had to put something together. They couldn't put him in a big gala event where he would speak for an hour because he can't.
Yeah.
So the next best thing was to, quote, show his solidarity with the labor force is to march on the line with them for a few steps. That's why they did it.
Well,
and he's got a problem. One of his staunchest supporters was the Washington Post. On Saturday, Washington Post released the results of a survey. And it was terrible, terrible for Joe Biden. For example, do you think the president's doing a good job on the border? 25% said yes. 75% said no. That's not a winning number. So they were reluctant to show the results of the polling data. Overall, he's got about a 32 or 33% approval rating. And if the election were to take place today, according to their poll, they announced that Donald Trump would beat Joe Biden by at least 10 points.
Yeah, the thing that I have been the thing that we have been saying, and the thing that the Young Turks and everybody else has been saying, you got to get rid of Joe Biden. Because the other side, the Republicans, they're kind of, even though 90% of the time they're bumblers, they will coalesce and organize behind whoever wins that nomination, which me and IQ, and I'm sure Dan probably all agree, it's probably going to be Trump. But they've got to figure this out, because Biden is not going to be the guy to get this done.
I understand and appreciate what you're saying, but I want to take issue with you.
Okay.
The Democrats who are in control, want Biden because they know anybody else they would put up against Trump, or almost anybody else on the dais, would get their ass handed to them.
Well, yeah.
So you've got the sitting president with all of his power and influence of the office going for him, taking somebody who has never held the office of president, to expect them to be able to put something together. They talk about they want him out, but it's a faction of the Democratic Party. It is by no means, in my opinion, anywhere near the majority of Democrats.
Yeah. IQ, what do you think, my friend?
Well, you know what I think of the American voters in general. Really, it's very difficult to look. Any human being with two brain cells of logic, only two, looking at the economy, looking at the border, would never, ever vote for a Democrat under any circumstances. But the trouble is, how many Americans have got more than two brain cells of logic? That's the question. I don't know. I can't tell you.
IQ, I understand what you're saying, and by and large, I agree with you. But I do believe, and I've said this a gazillion times, the vast majority of Americans do not get their news from Fox News.
Yeah.
And they didn't know about the Hunter Biden laptop until after the election. There's things that they still don't know. And because the mainstream media is not telling them anything. And so there is a constituency in the Democratic Party who for decades have used the mainstream media as their principal source of news, and the Washington Post and the New York Times and MSNBC and CNN. These are where they get their news. And as a result, there's a lot of things that they've never been told. And even though the Senate, the House committee is trying to put out as much information as they can, it's not getting coverage on the mainstream media. So it's a hard battle to try and educate the American people just how evil this man is. When you've got the major media, press and television and radio, working for him and against Republicans. I mean, I find it amazing that we have people on The View arguing, screaming and yelling at liberal reporters on other networks about the way they're covering Joe Biden, or not covering Donald Trump enough. And I know that Trump is not going to be there tomorrow. Sorry to say, Ace is not going to be there tomorrow. He's dropped out. And
oh, he's gone. That's
what?
too bad. He's gone. That's too
yeah, he's
bad.
gone. And there'll be others that'll be gone by the next debate in October. But the thing that you have to look at, it may be changing their numbers in terms of the number of candidates who are going to be in the mix in the coming debates, but it doesn't mean that they're gaining on Donald Trump at all.
No, it just go ahead,
Sorry.
IQ.
Really, I mean, I understand about the news media, but I don't need the bloody news media to know that the borders is open. I don't need the news media to tell me that the economy is in crap. I don't need that. I feel it. I know it.
Yeah.
So what is the problem? I don't. You are giving them excuses. I don't accept excuses.
No, I'm not giving. No, I'm not giving anybody any excuses. I'm reporting what I see of what's going on as best I can from a factual base. And what I'm saying is that the mainstream media is in the pocket of the Democratic Party and Joe Biden, and they'll do everything they can to get him reelected, if at all possible. See, that what we haven't talked about is what happens if Donald Trump wins and he gets a majority of the House and the Senate. What if it's a landslide? I mean, the poll by Washington Post last week, as I said, on Saturday, had Trump up by 10 points over Biden. 10 points? That's a landslide. And so I don't think the Democrats, the true Democrats, think they're going to lose. They may lose the presidency, but they're not going to lose control of the House and the Senate. So they get to do whatever they want to do. They haven't come to grips that if Donald Trump gets reelected president, that it won't be Trump 2. It'll be a new Donald Trump, and tenacity and aggression like we've never seen. People are, IQ, I don't know whether you saw this, last Friday when Trump did an interview and it was asked, what are you going to do about the illegal problem we have with people in the country illegally? Charter planes and take them all out. That's his solution to the problem. Put them on planes and send them back where they were. And see, there are a lot of Democrats who actually under their breath would agree with that, but they can't do that because it's against the party. a lot of Americans would very much like to see these illegal aliens who've come into their country and attacked it and trying to destroy it be put on an airplane and dumped back to where they came from. But Jim, one of the problems, and I talked about this on another show this week, you have the person that I was talking to who had a question. He said, there are 150 countries that now have people coming across the border. One question, how do they get here? And how do they cross into the United States if they don't have passports? They need some kind of paperwork to come from their home country, say Africa, to get to Mexico, to get to the border. But once they get there, wow, I don't know what happened. I think the dog ate my papers, and they're gone.
Dog ate my papers.
I couldn't resist that one, Jim. So how are you going to prove where they're from? Are you going to trust them that they're going to tell you the truth? Well, I'm from Venezuela. Because that's what's happening right now. Biden has made a special exemption for people from Venezuela who came here before June 19th or something like that. And they can come in, no paperwork, they can get jobs, and they're good. But after that, we got a little bit of a problem. But last week, I think it was Thursday or Friday, we had 10,000 illegals that come across the border that we can count. 10,000. You know, and I'll ask you too the question that I have been asking all week. What is the number, Jim and IQ, of illegals that come across the border into the United States before the majority of the American people say enough? And people say enough. What's the number? What's
20 million.
20 million.
20 million?
You already have 7 million. What's the big deal? You already
What's the
have
big
7 million
deal?
in 2.5 years.
What do you think, Jim?
I'm not saying not enough. Good
I don't
God,
think
I
that-
wouldn't have allowed 100,000 people, let alone 27 million people. The word is illegal. End of conversation. That's it. Done. I don't do your editor. Don't talk to me about bloody human rights. As you said, they had to cross several countries before they came to the United States of America. And international law, if I don't give a damn about international law, but let's assume it is correct. From their country to the first country they move in, that's the country they stay in. They can't go to a second and third and fourth country.
So IQ, let me rephrase the question, because I didn't ask it of you and Jim exactly how I've been asking it. How I've been asking it is, how many illegals would be the number coming in the Biden administration, not who are already here, but came in from the Biden administration, would be the number that would cause you to say enough? You still say 20 million?
No, I'm saying the American people are tolerant. Me, I say 100,000 is too much.
Okay.
100,000 will be too much. I wouldn't accept. Why should I? I don't get it. These illegals are going to take the jobs of who? Not white people, black people, Hispanic people, and Asian people. The lower strung.
Jim, what's your number?
You know, honestly, I don't think there is a number. I don't think anybody will ever complain. I think that's going to be a conservative right kind of deal, and I think that the other side is just we're a melting pot is the deal.
10 million under the Biden administration was the number that I heard last week and this week. 10 million.
But who is going to pay for the 10 million, for God's sake? Who?
Jim.
American taxpayers. Idiots.
No, yeah, Jim's gonna pay for it.
Might as well. I was told earlier today by a business partner of mine that there is a rumor out there that I'm running a prostitution ring. So if that is the case, If that is the case, I'd be happy to pay for all the illegals. I'd have the money.
So there are people who say the economy is the thing, that the border is not. But if you look at what's going on in the blue cities and the blue states, they're just falling apart about trying to get out from under this sanctuary city crap, and they want to take their cities back. The mayor of San Francisco says that the city is dying. The mayor of New York is saying the illegal immigration problem is so bad that New York City is dying.
They deserve it. I hope they do.
Deserve it.
James, I've been telling on your show for 14 years, wake up, and nobody wants to wake up. To hell with them. Pay for it. I'm sorry. I have no sympathy with people who are stupid, and they continue to be stupid.
IQ, I would say to you, with all respect, that the question about who's going to pay for it used to work, but it don't no more.
Yeah.
Because the government has got $33 trillion in debt. That's not your money that they're spending. It's money that they're printing in the printing press to pay the bills. $33 trillion. So it isn't us funding all of the stuff that deals with illegals. It's the government funding it itself by printing of money, creating inflation. Two things. The yield on the 10 and 30-year Treasury are at about a 20-year high. Now, that didn't happen the last time we had inflation because of oil prices. Oil prices, crude oil, is up $30 a barrel than what it was in April. So what I'm expecting to see happen is interest rates are up, which means it's going to cost more money to borrow money. Gasoline and oil are going up and probably going higher. They're going to start adding to the cost to our economy, which means we're going to see a resurgence in inflation. And the Fed has already indicated that they don't really want to increase interest rates. So if interest rates are the tool to try and dampen interest rates down by raising interest rates, and they don't want to do that, they think they've gone far enough, and we have a resurgence of inflation, perhaps even hyperinflation, this economy's in the tank. I mean, it's going to get ugly. But it's not our tax dollars that are going to ever be used to pay it back. We're just going to print more money. That's the Democratic philosophy, IQ. You don't have to raise taxes, just print more money.
Correct, but then you have to pay the debt. You have to.
No, you don't. You have to pay the interest.
It doesn't matter. You got to pay that debt. You can talk to all the Republicans and all the Democrats. None of them are ever going to do that.
We're never going to pay off the debt. So what's a few extra $1 trillion here and there? I mean, it's the idea that as somebody once said, that ship has sailed a long time ago. Yeah, we did at one time think we could pay off our debt. In fact, in the Second World War, IQ, the debt that we went into to build the military industrial complex to fight the war against Japan and Germany, we went deep into debt. But the philosophy at that time was that the war will stimulate the economy, which will provide additional tax revenue to retire the debt. We've gotten so far out of whack on the amount of debt that we put on the books, there's no way we're ever going to pay it back. And anybody who tries to convince you that we have to pay it back, I got a bridge in Brooklyn, I can sell you real cheap. It's not going to happen. It's like where you live right now in the UK. What's the debt of the UK? Do you know?
Not really, no.
Pardon me?
I don't know, honestly. But
Okay.
I think about 200 billion or something.
200 billion seems way too low, but I'll look it up. But the philosophy of what's going on in Europe is way ahead of where we are. So we got a lot of room to go to create an enormous next surge in debt. The problem that we have with the debt IQ in this immigration problem is that we don't have the physical resources to house all these people. We don't.
And to educate them and to give them national health service.
Oh yeah, that goes without saying. It's just that we don't have physically the number of housing units necessary to provide a home or an opportunity to buy a home for these illegals that are coming into the country.
Do you have jobs for 7 million people? Do you have jobs for 7 million people? Illegals? Many of them don't speak English. Come on, for God's sake, where is the realism?
Oh,
Anymore.
God's not around. He's not here right now. He's on sabbatical.
Sabbatical.
But you know, the situation is, there was a story today where the New York State Supreme Court ordered the New York State Governor's Office to remove homeless people from a illegally created homeless shelter next to a school. And they were told that the 400 people plus who were in that illegal shelter had to be removed. And it's another example of where do we do? If we had more money to pay for housing for the illegals, that would be one thing. But even if we had the money, we don't physically have the property. The city of New York has been buying hotel after hotel after hotel to provide, because the shelters no longer have enough room to house all of the illegals that are coming in. So they're changing the whole economic dynamic of New York City. You can't get a hotel room. And so it's changing the economy of New York and San Francisco and Chicago and all of these northern red city or blue cities. The money isn't there. I mean, the Democrats' answer to the question, IQ, just give us more money. To do what with? You can't buy any more places because there's no place, there's nothing that is vacant that you could buy. Are you going to start throwing Americans out of their homes or apartments so you can have room for illegals coming into the country? I don't think that goes over well.
They are doing it in Europe, by the way.
You what?
They are doing it in Europe. They are removing indigenous civilians to allow illegals to take place in Europe.
And are the people protesting?
Who gives a damn about the people? Who gives a damn about the people? Who gives a damn about American people? All I hear.
No, I was asking whether the European people are protesting being thrown out of their homes.
Anybody protesting in America? Nobody's protesting. Nobody.
I couldn't hear him, Jim. What did he say?
You cut out there, IQ. You were on a rant there, and we lost it.
Nobody's protesting in America.
So, are we having somebody at?
No, we're going to go ahead and continue on.
Whether we like it or not.
Whether we like it or not, as they say, we have got IQ Al Rizzoli, the fantastic Dan Perkins, with us today. So one of the things that also has been going on is this Menendez, who basically bribery, shocking someone in the someone, whether it's a corporate Republican or a corporate Democrat, is accused of bribery. The Republicans that there is a Republican that is defending Menendez and saying, well, let's just let a jury decide it. However, there's also some people in the Democratic Party that are like, yeah, just let we like this bribery. We like corruption. This could be a nightmare for Democrats.
Yes.
What do you think about all this, Dan?
Well, I lived in New Jersey for 37 years. And if there's a more corrupt state, I don't know what is. I mean, it's atrocious. Menendez, this is his second go-round. He was charged several years ago and got off because of a hung jury. There weren't enough jurors to convict him, so he got off.
Yeah.
I don't know what that cost him or his friends to allow that hung jury to get there. But it was interesting. I did this. I set somebody up this morning because I wanted to see how they would react. So here's the setup. We saw that Republicans and Democrats supposedly both believe, as all Americans supposedly believe, in this country, you are innocent until proven guilty.
Yes.
AOC came out last week and said, based on the evidence, he should resign for the good of the party. Now, she's not saying he's guilty. She's saying the preponderance of the evidence points to that he committed the crimes that will cause him to be purged from the Senate. So the Democrats are saying, look, you don't get the opportunity to be innocent until proven guilty. You are, if the Democratic Party decides that you are guilty, even before there was a trial, you got to leave. You got to turn it over because we can't afford to lose it. And again, this is AOC talking about it, and she obviously doesn't understand the Constitution in New Jersey, and that the governor of the state of New Jersey is the one who appoints the replacement for Menendez, and he ain't going to appoint a Republican. Ain't going to happen. Now, the Republican could win in the election in 2024, but the appointment's going to be a Democrat. What happened on Saturday, I don't know whether you saw this, Jim. He came out, Saturday was the first time that he had an opportunity to respond to the charges. By the way, you may have saw the story that he wanted to hold his press conference to defend himself in a school in Jersey City, where at one point in his life, he was a young school board member in that school. And the principal said, nah, I'm not going to disrupt my classrooms by having you in a bunch of media, so go find it someplace else. But what was his defense? What he said on Saturday was, the people who want to convict me are racists. They're against Hispanic people. Now that's the Democratic mantra. You don't have to be proven guilty. If we think you should go, you go, regardless of your party affiliation. And oh, by the way, you could be racist, whether you're black, white, Hispanic, Chinese, or whatever. So he's saying, I'm not going anywhere. He did resign from his chairmanship of the Senate committee, but he hasn't resigned his Senate seat and fully expects to return to take charge of the committee. So his gold bullion and his $100 bills sewn into his suit and all this stuff. The one line I heard on Friday, he said, well, I always take money out of the bank and keep it at the house. And somebody said, $400,000 worth? So I first of all, he should be toast. He should be gone. But I don't know for sure who the governor is going to report or replace him with, and what kind of credibility and integrity he or she has. But it's also another distraction, Jim, away from Joe Biden.
Yes.
And they're going to get it. So when you look at it, what do we have? We have Menendez with cars and money and bullion. Gee, does somebody else in the White House seem to be in a similar situation? The reaction of how Menendez gets treated, the Democrats are looking at it from the standpoint of Joe Biden, what's going to happen with him. So I think, again, we have to keep in mind that the Democrats are looking to try to protect Joe Biden as much as they possibly can.
Yep.
And try and use, as James Carville said, the shiny object feature, which is to distract them with the shiny object, when what really is going on over here, nobody knows.
So IQ, what do you make of all this?
Well, it only consolidates my thought that you have an injustice system. They have tried to destroy Trump with hundreds of accusations. Not a single one of them was true. Had he resigned every single time? No, he shouldn't resign. Find me guilty in a court of law. That's what I believe the justice system should be about.
But IQ, let me ask you a question. They tried him 3 times. They were unable to convict him. So does that say to IQ, Rizzoli, that the American justice system works?
No, it's not working.
They didn't convict Trump on any of the 3 occasions.
Because he's not guilty. What, you want to force the issue now? No, he is not guilty. It's a corrupt system. You know it's a corrupt system. Most Americans should know that it's a corrupt system. Even the blacks now are calling him a brother. They're calling Trump a brother. Why? Because they have suffered from the corrupt system. He's just one of them now. You know, right. He probably will get more black votes now than ever before in his life.
Well, the last poll that I told you about a couple of weeks ago, he got 8% in the presidential election, and Joe Biden got 31 or 91. Biden now has 61. Trump has over 20, and building on it, so that at 61% of the black vote, Joe Biden can't get reelected as president. Jim, which reminds me, it just reminded me of a question for you. You and I, when Donald Trump ran the first time, we did the live broadcast, and we were ahead of everybody else. We called that Trump is going to win, and we gave everybody the rationale, the numbers, and we proved to be right hours later. Do you think this could be a massive landslide for Donald Trump?
You know, I see that this is the thing, is that I think that he probably would win, but I think it's going to come down to whoever's got the best way to cheat. Because for whatever reason, and it doesn't matter if it's Republicans, it's Democrats, it doesn't matter. They just don't like people having the ability to vote. They just, if you look at any of the things that have happened, like in the last election, they the Democrats just did not like the ability for people to go vote for Trump. I remember when one of the most famous stories is when Mitt Romney was running in Texas against Ron Paul in a primary. They put everybody in a room, and then magically the power went out, and then magically when the power came back on, all these people had voted for Mitt Romney. So it's just, it doesn't matter if it's Republicans or Democrats. They just don't like people being able to vote. There was a buddy of mine years ago that made a comment to me about how when everybody is cheating, he was talking about the Mr. Olympia bodybuilding competition, and he said they don't allow drug testing for the Mr. Olympia. It's shocking. And one of the things that he said was, well, when you don't allow testing and you just allow everybody to take whatever they want to take, it comes down to who's got the better chemist. Mm-hmm. And so with this voting thing, it just comes down to who's got the better, guy that can get to the computers or what have you. It just comes down to who's got the better team.
IQ, do they have the voter fraud like we have in Europe?
No, I don't know about Europe, but in England, you have to come with an identity. You have to come with a card which belongs to your address, and they verify it against a list with your name, and that's it. But you have to do it by hand, not electronically, not through bloody machine, no, by hand. And that's
so can you do absentee ballots in UK?
No, not as far as I know. No, you got to be there personal.
So you're going to have to you're going to get those people up off their deathbed to walk into the polling place.
Well, if they're dead, they don't have to bloody vote.
Well, they're not dead yet. They're getting up off their deathbeds if they don't have absentee ballots.
Believe me, they go. In England, especially, they are dedicated. They love to vote. It's a social thing and cultural. It goes both social and cultural. They vote. You see elderly people on crutches, on wheels, they come and they vote. That's their right under the Constitution. So they do it.
Okay. Can I just ask IQ a separate off the subject question?
Go ahead.
IQ, the last time you were on with us, you mentioned what was happening in Libya, with the 5,000 people that died in the original flood and maybe another 5,000 to 10,000 missing. And you somewhat implied that the rest of the world wasn't going to come to their aid. Did that happen?
Very few people came to their aid for one reason only. They're not safe. They haven't got the infrastructure to land the aircraft. They don't have the infrastructure to have the the ambulances and everything. They don't have. And who would go? I mean, Israel would have been the first one to go there nearby. They don't allow Israelis to come, although Turkey, who hates Israel, allowed them when they had an earthquake. But that's the way it is in Islamic countries. Kuffar, everybody who's not a Muslim is a kafir. They're untouchable. Forget it. No, Libya, in a state of war, it's very difficult to have anybody going in, and they didn't. They didn't. Not many people went.
I have to say, I don't know about you, Jim. I didn't see any commercial of any of the Christian help organizations talking about what was going on in Libya.
Oh yeah, that's the thing. There are so many, and I just over the last several years, I have gotten more. I guess you would say spiritual, if that's the term. Mm-hmm. And there are so many people in that world that are con artists, charlatans, shenanigans, and I'm not shocked. that any of these so-called Christian We Care organizations, I'm not shocked that they don't care. It is just, you know, just interesting. I had an experience earlier today that I went to a funeral for one of my wife's aunts passed away, and went to the funeral, and I don't know what this trend is in funerals. I wish it would stop. The last 3 or 4 funerals I've been to, the pastor will get up there and he'll do 10 minutes on it's like a routine. It's like he's a stand-up comic. He does 10 minutes on the person that we are there for the funeral for. And then he spends 20 minutes telling Bible stories that have absolutely no connection to the person that has passed. And then he starts mentioning his church, starts mentioning where you can go see him and all these things. And I'm like, is that a new thing? I remember going to funerals years ago where we were there to remember the loved one. And at the end of it, they're like, meet us out at the grave. Now it's like an infomercial for come see me Sunday. And it's like, is he literally standing up there at the podium counting all the people going, well, they put $20 in the collection plate and they put $20 in the collection. And I just, it's so strange, but that's just a side note. But yeah, I'm not shocked that the Christian care organizations are don't care about, you know,
Libya.
It's,
Hey, IQ. Any kickback on the $6 billion that the United States government gave to the people, the government of Iran in exchange for the 6 people?
First of all, it was 5 people, not 6.
I'm sorry?
There were 5 people exchanged for 6 billion.
Right, 5 people for 6 billion.
Yeah, 1.2 billion each. And they are building an airport for their illegal activities in Lebanon, a few miles away from the Israeli border. Now, you don't build an airport with peanuts. You build it with money. And America gave it to them.
So but I guess what I was wondering about, the people in Iran didn't see any of the $6 billion.
They will never see a dime. What are we discussing? This is not a democracy.
But are they protesting? Are they protesting that?
No, they don't even know about it. But the government controls the media in Iran. The government controls the media in America. What are we discussing? You're not different, really. You think you are different. You think you have a constitution. Yes, you have a constitution. But who's abiding by the constitution? You have a corrupt system. As James said, they will try their best to undermine the election process. I believe today, if today there was a vote for Trump and Biden, Trump will win with not only a landslide, but a gigantic landslide. If Washington Post had 10 points, double it. Double it. There's no question. Double it.
I think that's within the realm of possibility based on what we know today. A lot can change. We still got 14 months before the election. So
anything can change.
Anything can change. The other thing I was wondering about, IQ, was we have this $6 billion along with other money that they've gotten from hostage negotiations. How are they doing with their nuclear program?
They're progressing. They're progressing. There's no question about it. They're progressing. The Israelis are saying they're progressing. It's a matter of deciding when to attack, if they want to attack. That's all. The decision will be made by Israel. They will not tell America anything. They will just go ahead and do it. Because
And
they
if
don't
they-
tell America.
if
They have
they-
already warned.
Let's just say that you're right, and let's make another supposition. Let's assume that Joe Biden is still president. What do you think happens with Joe Biden if the Israelis go after the Iranians and destroy their nuclear capability? What does
Nothing
he, what does he
What-
do?
Nothing. What will he do? Cry baby? What will he do? What did they do when Israel destroyed Osirak in Iraq? Or they destroyed the one in Syria? What did they do? Nothing. They were very pleased. You know, after the war against Saddam Hussein, your Minister of Defense sent a letter to the Israeli Mossad and said, thank God you destroyed his nuclear capability. Because if he had the bomb during the Kuwait crisis, there was no way on earth he could have taken back Kuwait from Saddam Hussein. No way. Am I right or am I wrong?
Well, he did, didn't he? Didn't we
No,
take?
he didn't have a bomb because they destroyed it for him. But if
Okay.
hadn't destroyed it, the Americans themselves said, thank God you destroyed it. Otherwise, we wouldn't have been able to take Kuwait back. That's it.
Right, right. So the in Europe, the there's a United Nations Commission on Border Security, and it recently, within the last 2 weeks, rated the most dangerous borders to cross. On the number one most difficult, most dangerous border to cross in the world is our southern border.
Wait. Am I listening to you correctly? It's the easiest. You can walk on water. What are you talking about?
They're saying that the UN is saying that the number of people that die trying to get to the border and the people who die on the other side of the border, that it makes it the most dangerous border to try and cross in the world.
In English, it's called bullcrap. The United Nations is more corrupt. It is the most corrupt organization on planet Earth. You should know that. They have never done anything since the United Nations was created to save any country from war. In fact, the Arabs were the first people in 1948 to break the rule of the United Nations by trying to eradicate Israel in 1948. So what are we discussing? A corrupt state? They are anti-American in plain sight. Only Nikki Haley, I remember her. She was the only one representing the United States of America in UN who stood up for America. Nobody else did.
So are the Europeans, does our southern border get any news space in Europe?
In fact, a southern border, you get more news space in Australia than in Europe. In Australia, of all places.
Because
They condemn in Australia, the news media, especially Sky News Australia, is pro-Trump, anti-Biden, 100%. Unusual, very unusual.
I never would have guessed it would be Australia.
Yeah.
And so the other European nations are not really addressing or even talking about what's happening at our southern border.
No, they have 10,000 people going to Lampedusa, one island belonging to Italy. In one day, 10,000. With a population of 600 people. Come on, for God's sake, what are we discussing? Corruption in America and Europe by the elite is infinite.
So are you saying that the Europeans are as inept as the Americans about controlling
yes.
their borders?
Oh, yes, yes, yes. They have no borders to control. They're allowing anybody. And the Pope says, oh my goodness, you're not generous enough. But this son of a bitch hasn't allowed 200 illegals in the Vatican.
Okay.
I mean, he is in the Vatican telling the Europeans, you're not allowing enough illegals when he hasn't had a single one in the Vatican. The hypocrisy is astronomical. It is. I'm telling you, the whole world now is upside down. Honestly, it's completely upside down. Love is hate, justice is injustice, and so on and so forth. James is shaking his head. He's agreeing.
Yeah.
There's I did some research today and found I wanted to answer the question: what responsibility does the President of the United States hold for the conditions at the border? And is it, if he's not doing it properly, is it an impeachable offense? And in the oath of office of president, there is no discussion about borders. It's simply the Constitution. But there are other provisions in the law that talk about the responsibility of the executive branch to enforce our borders. I don't understand why the Republicans are not using that provision to go after Joe Biden, because he clearly, in my opinion, he clearly is showing incompetence in managing the borders of the United States.
James, remind Dan how many times I told you he should be impeached because of the border for the last few years. Remind him. And I'm not even the Constitution of America. It's obvious, as commander-in-chief, he has failed the American people. End of conversation. That's it. That's it.
But they're not. They're in my opinion, they're purposely withholding any further movement on an impeachment, doing an impeachment inquiry. But I wonder if it'll ever turn into an impeachment trial. It seems to me that there is significant evidence that would indicate, with the 1023 forms, with the specific activity reports showing deposits into Joe and Hunter's accounts of millions and millions of dollars. It's there, but nothing's happening to it. And the question is it the Democratic machine, the non-elected officials, who are manipulating what's going on behind the scenes?
Dan, if you are asking this question and you are one of the foremost authorities on the subject, how could anybody else answer it?
Well, everybody's entitled to an opinion. It just seems to me that
opinions are a dime a dozen, for God's sake. Opinions are nothing. On any subject, you can have a billion opinions. So bloody what? I don't give a damn about opinions. I want facts. I deal with facts. I deal with reality. Opinions, in my opinion, I believe, are all subject to doubt. I want items without subject to doubt. If that's possible, that's it.
It just seems to me that it's, and maybe you see it differently, Jim. The amount of evidence that the House committees have already collected. How do you doubt that he isn't corrupt?
See, that's the thing. Because
they say he isn't corrupt. I mean, that's that's basically what's going on. Is they don't want to admit that their man is a corrupt person, and I know we only got about a couple minutes, but I'm shifting a little bit to tonight since your show's on Wednesday night.
Yeah.
Our show's on Wednesday night. In the debate tonight, in my Monday morning class, I asked people, if you could only ask one question to the entire panel, what would that question be? So I asked Jim and IQ, what would that question be? You can only ask one to everybody. What would that question be? Jim?
Well, let's see. It's a Republican debate. So, Medicare for all is off the table. but I would probably ask, well, there would be two questions. You could ask the one for like the red meat, let's get a cheap pop out of the Republican audience and people that are watching Fox. And you could ask something about corruption and Hunter Biden and all that.
Okay.
But that would just be a throwaway thing. If I was actually going to be there and be able to ask all these Republicans a question, I think it would be, why in the world did you get into this race when there's Trump?
Whoa,
most of the country still loves this guy.
Right.
Why did you bother to get in this race? Are you essentially playing for second?
Okay.
Something like that.
Oh, that's a great. I didn't hear that one yesterday morning. IQ, what about you?
Funnily enough, ironically enough, I was going to ask the same question. Why are you in the race?
Yeah, what are you doing here?
Trump is ahead of all of you. Why are you in the race? I don't get it. Simple. Always the most deadliest questions are the simple questions.
If I could ask individual questions, one of the things I would ask Mike Pence, which he wouldn't answer, and I think that the crowd would probably boo me out of the building, and the people watching Fox would not like it. But I'm like, why are you in this race? There was a huge amount of people that wanted to hang you at the Capitol. Right. And there are people to this day that still love Trump. Do you really think you're going to be able to say anything to get any of these people to vote for you? It's insane to me.
Okay. My answer was neither one of yours. My answer was, if you're elected, will your first priority be? Would your first priority be term limits?
Oh, well, see, that would be a good one, because there is a whole bunch of them up there that are going to be like, oh.
When you think about the number of, I think it's 27 senators are over 67 years of age.
Yeah. It's just like Alex Jones says, we're all being ruled by the Skeksis from the movie The Dark Crystal.
My favorite. Yes. And I look at that and I say, if you look at the standpoint, if you eliminated term limit, if you created term limits,
yes, you
would eliminate an awful lot of problems in this country.
Yes.
Because you wouldn't have the lobbyists, because I'm going to sneeze.
One of the things you bring up there with the lobbyist thing is, something that has never really been addressed. But but it sort of it finally kind of got explained to people was when Cenk Uygur of the Young Turks was on that Patrick Bet David, the guy on YouTube who thinks he's the next Joe Rogan, the guy who's a common man, but he's half owner of the Yankees. Yeah, he's a common man. But one of the things that Cenk said about corruption in Washington, and sort of with your term limit thing, is that part of the reason why Nancy Pelosi and all these folks have been there for thousands of years is because they're a good investment. These lobbyists and these people, they know who they're going to vote for, what they're going to vote on. Whereas if you elect someone new, they might not think the way we think, or they might think the way we think, but maybe they're not going to be as, so yeah, it's a good investment. Nancy Pelosi's a good investment.
One person, when I told him my question yesterday, said, I like that. I want a 7-year term president, period.
Yeah.
And I want 3 2-year terms for the House, and done. Everybody's got to leave.
Yeah.
And you're right. If you're going to start turning people over in droves, it's hard to plan a cycle, because even though you may have 3 2-year terms, you may not get reelected for the second or the third. So are you going to put money in somebody that is going to be gone in 6 years, and could be gone sooner depending on how he or she performs?
Yeah.
And
or you have the situation like with the Justice Democrats who were progressive, and we're going to get progressives in there, and then they get them elected and they become exactly what their name says. They're just another Democrat.
Right. Agreed. All right, sir.
Well, as we wrap up here, let's start with IQ Al Rassooli. IQ, how do we get your books, my friend?
On Amazon, Lifting the Veil, The True Faces of Muhammad and Islam. By the way, fantastic show today.
Yes.
We're better off when we have nobody than when we have somebody.
I don't know that I agree with that, but
I agree with that. Well, Dan, what do you have for us? Updates.
Okay, the new website is up and continuing to evolve. It's called danperkinsmedia.org.
That's awesome.
You'll also have links to songs and stories and danperkins.guru, my personal website, but a whole bunch of shows. In fact, Jiggy's show is going to be on my network when I'm on it. Believe it or not, Jim, in 6 weeks, my new novel, Sad Eyes, my first romance novel, will be out for sale just before Thanksgiving, the first book. And I am writing a new thriller called Satan's Soldiers.
Wow.
It's about a terrorist organization that is assassinating Catholic bishops across the United States.
Smokes. Well, when your new book, Sad Eyes, officially comes out, we'll have to have you on everybody's. You'll have to do the press tour. You'll have to go.
I know. Absolutely.
Well, it has definitely been a fun show today. Dan Perkins, of course, joins us, the fantastic IQ Al Rassooli. And we will see you guys next week. And for those listening to us live or on-demand archived audio, as the radio industry likes to say, because we can't say the P word, because that's not a good radio thing. IQ, I will see you on Thursday, my friend. So, Dan, I will see you next week.
Yes, sir.
Appreciate it. There they go. That is